the upper hand. Their cruisers approached cautiously, weapons armed, confident that their modern arsenal would dismantle relics of the past. But the Terran ghosts moved first. The Revenant issued a low-frequency command. Across the nebula, ancient ships aligned into combat formations with terrifying precision. Not one staggered, not one hesitated. When the Vayari opened fire, the void lit with plasma storms. Yet the Terran vessels countered instantly, missiles launched in perfect volleys, railguns igniting with thunder, point defense turrets carving apart entire squadrons. The old war machines did not falter. They maneuvered as though their captains had never left their stations, every movement sharp, merciless, flawless. The Vayari fleet broke within minutes. Cruisers fled, corvettes burned, and their command ship was left drifting with its hull split open. Survivors swore that the Terran ships were crewed by shadows, their bridge windows flickering with forms that could not possibly be alive. The galaxy had mocked human silence. Now they feared its breaking. Engines of the forgotten. As more Terran fleets awakened, some hidden in asteroid belts, others buried beneath planetary crusts, a realization spread: this was not accident. Humanity had not died quietly. They had prepared. The fleets were not random ruins but deliberate caches, preserved in silence for the day they would be needed again. Each one bore names heavy with history: Ironclad Dawn, Black Horizon, Exodus Spear, Ghost Wind. Their reactors hummed with energies modern science could not fully explain. Their weapons, though ancient, outclassed contemporary navies with brutal efficiency. Even their codes still held authority. Automated stations recognized their commands, dormant satellites relinked, and half-buried arsenals unfolded like flowers blooming after endless winter. Terran war doctrine lived on, written into the steel itself. The galaxy whispered in dread: if this is only what we found, what remains undiscovered? The battle in the nebula. The climax came when a coalition fleet, composed of 6 species, launched a joint strike to contain the Revenant Armada before it could spread. They entered the Veil Nebula with banners high and confidence restored. But the nebula turned into their tomb. The Terran ships unleashed strategies unseen for centuries, feints that folded space, ambushes coordinated through silent pulses, formations designed to strangle enemy supply lines in minutes. Coalition vessels fought with desperation, but their modern doctrine had no counter for the precision of Terran wrath. The silence of the nebula was broken utterly, replaced by the roar of ancient engines, the crack of kinetic fire, the screams of collapsing hulls. The stars themselves seemed to dim as Terran missiles carved through fleets like scythes through grass. Hours later, the nebula fell silent once more, but it was the silence of annihilation. The coalition had been erased. The Terran Armada remained untouched, as though death itself bowed before their return. The aftermath of dread. The galaxy now knew the truth. Humanity had never been gone. They had never been weak. They had only been waiting. No empire dared approach the nebula again. Whispers traveled in the trade lanes, in the corridors of power, in the sermons of priests. The Terran ghosts have returned. Some claimed to see human figures upon the decks, their eyes burning with cold fire. Others swore the ships moved without crews, as if commanded by the wills of the dead. Whether manned or not no longer mattered. The fleets fought as Terrans, and that was terror enough. And a darker question spread. If these were but fragments of forgotten fleets, how many more lay hidden? If these were the echoes, what would the voice sound like when Earth itself chose to speak again? The galaxy had mocked the silence. But when it broke, when the Terran ghosts returned to battle, empires remembered why humanity had once been feared. Because humans do not simply build ships. They build storms. And storms never die. They spoke of Earth in hushed tones, if they spoke of it at all. The Kother Dominion kept vast archives of conquered species, carefully catalogued histories of civilizations that rose and fell beneath their banners. In those echoing halls, humanity was little more than a footnote. A world that burned itself in wars, a race too violent, too reckless, too fractured to endure. The last Terran transmissions recorded in the archives were static-laced calls for aid, screams lost in the void, and then nothing. Silence. For centuries, that silence became certainty. Humanity was extinct, buried in its own ashes. Their colonies were abandoned. Their outposts were scavenged. Their war machines, those crude, dangerous contraptions, were picked apart and left to drift. The galaxy adjusted without them, a dangerous predator removed from the ecosystem, a shadow that no longer stalked the stars. The quiet was comforting. But silences can hold more than endings. Sometimes they hold waiting. Whispers in the graveyard. It began in the Carthai's expanse, a lonely stretch of space no trader willingly crossed. Scattered there were fragments of old battles, wrecks torn apart, hulls drifting like frozen corpses. The locals called it the graveyard. An Arlaxi survey frigate conducting routine mineral sweeps passed through the region. Their scanners picked up something unusual, power fluctuations on what should have been dead stations. At first, the readings were dismissed. Old reactors sometimes sputtered back to life. A leaking fuel cell could mimic a power surge. Still, the captain ordered closer scans, if only to quiet the nervous crew. The reports were unsettling. The supposed derelict stations aligned their solar collectors toward nearby stars. Long cold engines registered faint thermal signatures. Even worse, signals flickered across forgotten comm bands. Old codes, encrypted, indecipherable. The crew joked uneasily of Terran ghosts haunting their ruins. The Dominion archivists laughed when the reports arrived. Residual echoes, they said, random discharges of ancient machinery. But the signals did not stop. They grew stronger. When the silence cracked, the Dominion dispatched a larger vessel, the cruiser Vathran, to investigate. Its commander, Siroth Kell, expected nothing but salvage. Yet when the cruiser entered the graveyard, its sensors reported movement. Massive objects stirred among the wrecks. The Vathran's bridge fell silent as shadowed shapes glided out of the debris fields. Hulls scarred but intact. Weapons arrays dormant but unmistakable. Warships, hundreds of them, hidden in plain sight for centuries. The Dominion crew told themselves it was impossible. These were just hulks drifting on inertia. Nothing living could pilot them. Nothing functional could survive untouched by time. Then the first one lit its engines. The sound was not heard but felt, the thrum of colossal reactors shaking the void itself. One by one, others followed. Engines glowed to life. Hull lights flickered like eyes opening after a long sleep. The silence cracked, and out of it came voices. Old Terran codes streaming in tight formation bursts, not random noise, orders, coordinated, alive. The graveyard wasn't a ruin, it was a hangar. The Ghost Fleet awakens. To the Arlaxi and Dominion crews, it was a nightmare made flesh. The warships were not primitive as history claimed. They bore scars of ancient wars, yes, but their lines were brutal, efficient, and purposeful. Terran design philosophy hadn't withered with time. Every angle screamed intent, ships built not to intimidate but to kill. The Dominion cruiser hailed them, broadcasting authority in the name of the Empire. No reply came, only the steady march of Terran encryption pulses. Then, impossibly, the ships maneuvered. Not aimless drifting, but practiced precision. They spread into formation as though the centuries between battles had been minutes. A fleet thought dead was answering a call no one else could hear. The Vathran panicked, weapons charged, missiles armed, but before a single shot could be fired, Dominion systems flickered, fire control vanished, shields stuttered, the crew screamed as their consoles went dark. The Terran ghosts hadn't even fired, they had overridden. Codes, written before the Dominion even rose, still held weight. Dominion systems collapsed before them like prey before a predator. And then the ghost spoke, not in words but in action. Weapons bays opened, hull plating shifted, rail batteries extended, missile tubes armed. The Dominion cruiser fled. But not fast enough. A single Terran salvo punched through its shields as if they weren't there. The Vathran detonated in silence, its wreckage joining the graveyard it had come to mock. The galaxy trembled. The storm of Terran steel. Word spread like infection. Dominion listening posts fell silent. Patrol fleets vanished without a trace. Every wreck left behind was not wreckage, it was camouflage. Every silent station was not abandoned, it was a sentinel. The Terran armada moved with terrifying coordination. Tens of thousands of ships, all awakening, all answering the same signal. And they did not drift toward Dominion space blindly. They advanced with intent. The Dominion's border garrisons reported impossible maneuvers, ships accelerating faster than modern vessels, jumping through hyperspace lanes without delay, as though maps had been written into their very hulls. The galaxy's younger species watched in horror. The tales they had been told, the humans were extinct, reckless, primitive, were lies.